Do you feel emotionally connected to your plants? As if in the process of caring for them, they as well are caring for you? What about planty DIYs and thrifting for plant items? If I have your attention, then the Plants by Wade Lee podcast is for you. Join me, plant friends, as we dig deep and experience the magic of plants. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the 5th episode of the Plants by Wade Lee podcast. I am so honored to bring on Growing Joy with Maria. She is a top podcaster, plant podcaster, author. I have been inspired by listening to her podcast when I started commuting back in June. I felt a kindred spirit listening to her podcast. It's not just about growing tips and DIYs, but it's also about cultivating joy with plants. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to this place, Maria? You call yourself a former plant killer to
Yes.
happy plant lady. How did that journey unwind for you?
Yeah, I love that. Yes, plant killer, whoever's listening, whatever weird things you've done to your plants, I've done something totally weirder. So like no shame here. I like to say, thank you for mentioning my show is totally about plants, but really the kind of behind the scenes mission of my business is to grow happier, kinder people. And I think caring for plants is cultivating kindness. I think kindness can be a muscle that you can train. And when you learn to care for plants and experience empathy and patience with these, little green aliens that can't communicate with us, they can't tell us what they need. They can't bark at us or tweet. I have a bird. They can't tell us what they need. I think it creates this real sensitivity and kindness. And so on my podcast, Growing Joy with Plants, I have to get everyone to care for plants successfully first, right? Because when you are a plant killer, then that's a stressful situation. So we have tons of episodes about, how to care for plants, but where my heart lies is how to use plants to live a happier life. And when you asked how that all came about, I was an epic plant killer. So I was a Broadway performer. I lived in New York City in 500 square feet. When I was a plant killer, I lived in even less. I mean, I had like 6 roommates sharing one bathroom, the classic, pounding the pavement, young actress, going to auditions, working a million jobs. And I couldn't keep a plant alive if someone paid me $1 million. I viewed them as kind of slower dying bouquets. So like if I was going to spend $9 on a bouquet at Trader Joe's or $9 on a snake plant, I would be like, well, the snake plant will die slower. So like I get better bang for my buck,
Yeah.
And things changed for me, which I feel like there's a bit of a parallel for you too, with your relationship is I moved in with my husband in New York City in 500 square feet. And I wanted to nest for the first time. So as a performer, I was super transient. I was always on tour. I was living in hotel rooms all the time. And so, the common thread in the magazines was the magazines that I was looking for inspo and Pinterest was plants. And so I thought, okay, I'll try plants one more time. But this time I'm going to Google my way to success. I'm going to figure this out. And that's where I found amazing online brands like The Sill and Summer Rain Oaks of Homestead, Brooklyn, these digital, educational platforms that were giving really high quality educational advice. I loved podcasts. I was a podcast addict because when you live in New York City and you're always on the subway, you need to do something to pass the time. And I remember searching the podcast app, typing in houseplants, plant care, those kind of keywords. And I would find houseplant episodes on gardening podcasts, but I couldn't find a podcast about houseplants. And in New York City, that's what I was looking for. I didn't have any space to garden. And I was in Cats on Broadway at the time, and my contract was ending. And I know as a performer, whenever I have a contract, performing is kind of crazy. You are on Broadway, living your dream, making great money, and then your contract ends and then you're unemployed, right? Until you get your next job. It's a very volatile lifestyle. And at that point, I knew myself well enough that I knew, I always get a little depressed after a contract ends. So why don't I have a passion project? I had started caring for plants successfully. I had started having this like heart opening experience of, caring for these plants and having them grow new leaves and wanting to like sing and talk to them and kind of build a relationship with them. And I wanted to help other millennials like me have that experience who were specifically living in like really urban, environments.
Yeah.
And so I decided, okay, this doesn't exist. Probably no one will listen to this because I think I'm crazy that I'm having this emotional reaction to plants. Like I must be the only person whose heart is exploding. I must be dramatic that I feel this way about plants. But I'll do it and my mom will listen to it and I'll do 10 episodes and I'll book another Broadway show immediately. And, this will be in my wake, like, in 6 months. And long story short, I didn't book another Broadway show quickly. That was the universe looking out for me. The downloads kept doubling every month of the podcast. I used Instagram as a free marketing tool to kind of find my plant people there. And I got amazing feedback about the podcast. And that was 7 years ago. And, 230 episodes later, we're still growing joy over there on the internet. So life took a complete left turn. I could have never imagined that this is what I do for my profession and with my life now. But I also don't think I could imagine being this happy. So it's a win-win.
Top plant podcaster.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. And like top podcaster, even out of genre. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so cool, Maria.
Thank you. Yeah, we have over 3 million downloads total, which is like a bunch of downloads, it's very cool. I think it's like I think when I die, it'll be like one of my proudest thing is that I was really able to help people and meet, strangers like you. Like we didn't know each other. You found my podcast and then you found me on Instagram and we've developed a plant friendship via Instagram. But, when I hear from strangers, like especially when they're in different countries, that my show has helped them, that I've supported them, that I've helped them get through a hard time or I've helped them care for a plant that they always used to kill. Like, to me, that's probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had.
Yeah. It's, talking about that, like I had really struggled with moving into the house here with the patio. It was all it was not enclosed, and we did a renovation to enclose it, and the plant slowly started dying. Like my $250 elbow that I got, like quickly. And it was so cool. Like in that time, I had just started listening to Growing Joy. You had an interview with the Soul Tech guys. And I was like, oh, that's probably all I need. Like I didn't realize that our windows were going to be so UV. So that was part of it.
Right.
Like,
Oh,
the
interesting.
UV protection in Florida, like it diminished the sunlight in here, a lot. So yeah, all of the studio lighting is Soul Tech.
Is Soul Tech? Oh my
Which is
God, I
so
can't wait to
cool.
tell
Yeah.
them that story. They're gonna love that story.
And like the plants have been doing amazing.
Yeah, shout out to Soul Tech. They're the best. I mean, I have 4 of their grow lights in my office as well. And yeah, I do feel like once you get into plants truly and like your plant collection starts growing, you do hit that moment where you're like, I need supplemental lighting. Like you only have so many windowsills, you only have so much real estate in your, even if you're lucky enough to have, southern facing. And you make a good point about being in Florida where all those windows are treated to basically be low light environments, even if they are southern facing. That's really interesting. I have never thought about that before.
Yeah. Well, us paying $10,000, for this enclosure, I didn't think about it either, Maria.
To then kill all your plants, right?
Yeah,
$10,000 to kill your plants. That's crazy.
Last spring they were flourishing. I mean, it was so amazing because of the climate and the humidity. They were just outside on the porch. So, but they're doing great now. They're doing really awesome.
Did you save that elbow or did it diminish?
No, that one.
Bummer.
Yeah, the other Aurora, is that how you say the green one?
I
Green
don't know. A
monstera,
Monstera one?
the lime green one. I think it's like AURO or something.
Okay.
Yeah, that died too, but it's like the green version of the elbow. A new elbow recently from She Digs Dirt. She sells some really cool plants.
Hmm.
Now there's a thumbs up. Oh, because I did the thumbs up?
Yeah. Zoom is doing this now too. It's so weird.
This is awesome. Okay, so when do you feel like the shift from you feeling like the crazy plant lady to a happy plant person? When do you feel that switch really happened?
I love this question. No one's ever asked me this question before, and I'm so passionate about this answer. Yeah, so in my book, I canceled the term crazy plant lady. There's the crazy plant lady and crazy's crossed out and happy is put on top because I think in the pandemic, I started seeing because obviously plants got so popular in the pandemic. And I think what happened was people started getting into plants. They started having this experience that all of us have, when you start caring for plants and you start kind of feeling a little crazy, right? Like, because you feel so good. And I feel like I saw an influx of memes about like crazy plant lady is the new crazy cat lady, and like, oh, I'm a crazy plant lady. And I struggle with mental health. I struggle with clinical depression. And the term crazy to me just felt really unfair because plants, we're not crazy for wanting to reconnect with nature. Like it's biophilic. Like this experience that we have when we start connecting with nature and with plants when we haven't for so long, that's actually like a somatic nervous system response to us connecting with something that we have been meant to connect with our entire lives, right? So this heart opening, awakening, excitement around plants is biological. It's our birthright to be connected with plants, and I don't think it should be labeled as crazy. The Sill trademarked, I've trademarked happy plant lady, but the Sill trademarked the term plants make people happy. And I feel like that is this whole concept in its simplest. Like when you're with plants, you're going to be a happier person. And so I just felt like this term crazy plant lady, crazy plant person, I just feel like no shade to it for people who use it. I don't care. I mean, it's not that, but I felt like it didn't feel right for me anymore. I used to call myself a crazy plant lady, and I realized, I'm not crazy. This is a universal experience now. I've spoken to, at this point, thousands of people who have had this experience where they've connected to plants and felt happier and their lives have changed. And so I don't know, it was important for me to kind of take a stand against it. Once again, if people like using that word, that's fine. But I just don't love using the word crazy. Also, from a historical perspective, women have been called crazy, so many in so many different moments when they weren't, and it was just easier to shut them up. So I don't know. There's like the baby feminist in me, and also just, you know, your words become your reality, right? Like words are very
Words are
important.
powerful.
Words are powerful. And so, my overall experience with caring for plants is that it's made me happier. And so I'm a
Yeah.
happy plant lady and not a crazy plant lady.
Well, and I love this so much because listening to your podcast, I got this, and this has
Mhm.
been sticking in my head, like she made a switch
Yeah.
from crazy plant lady and viewing herself as that to a happy plant person. And I'm just like, I someday want to talk to you about this. And I'm so honored to be able to do it because it's something too that I struggle with is mental health. I went through an ex-gay ministry when I was very young, and
Oh
there's
no.
a lot of different programming of just like, and part of that programming as an adult is my therapist the other day was like, you need to stop using the word crazy because you're not crazy. You have dealt with some major
You're
issues that
traumatized, right? That's
cause
different than
yeah,
crazy
yeah,
is, yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
So, but it's really cool to have you say that because and no shade to crazy. I have a crazy plant dad coffee mug,
Oh, me
but
too. It used to
yeah,
be all over my website. Like, no, everyone can use whatever words they want. But I do think it is interesting if you sit and you actually think about what you're calling yourself. I think your therapist is totally onto that. And it's interesting, it's a perspective shift that's available to everyone in so many different aspects of life, like not just in regards to plants, you know. But yeah, how you describe yourself is really potent for yourself and for others around you.
I think this is a good segue into something that I've also seen you be a little bit more vocal about with your meditation episode